work together every day to impact over 115,000 students daily that come in and out of the doors of our schools. And they depend on everybody in the system for something. We all fit together as part of a larger machine, each of us with a cog or a responsibility in that machine. From transportation to food and nutrition, to teaching and learning, to custodial, to maintenance and trades, ESPs, paraeducators, teachers, administrators. And you know, we could have stopped at any place along those lists of names and unpacked the hundreds and thousands of people that are in some of those groups and the work that they do to impact kids. That's what we're about. That's why we're here. We have been here at this table negotiating on matters started in the summer, June 26th. We started here. And since that time to now, the district has successfully settled with every employee group in that list except PEA. So those employees that we've settled with have seen the benefit of a 4% increase. And those increases of 4% have been the largest that we've ever seen under the superintendency, or for that matter, historically. The monies are in the paychecks of staff with traditional salary schedules that begin the work that we've spoken about here, addressing compression. And the work that we have to do on compression is a process and not a single event. And we've talked about that as well. The last time we were together here, as I said, on the 20th of November, the package had 5 components. The 5 components presented to us as a package in its entirety, not to be dismembered, not to be taken apart, but it was an all or nothing. Involved a millage referendum. It involved planning time, 30-minute lunch, a salary proposal that was countered back at $35,770,000, and unpaid leaves. That evening, PEA stated clearly the expectation that the package wasn't all or nothing. I asked multiple times to make sure we couldn't take that apart. Was there a way? And the answer was no. So as such, that package that we were presented the last time we were in this room became a demand to take all that was proposed or nothing for us. That's unfortunate because the strategy employed in bargaining through what was said in the record was a consensus of the PEA bargaining unit. But what that did during that session, parts of that package for us were perhaps no starters, while other parts of that package may have presented legal challenges that we would have been happy to discuss further that evening at the table. And for that matter, there were parts that I can tell you that I looked at and I thought we could seek agreement that evening on, but I couldn't access them. I couldn't get them. I couldn't talk about them because it was a package proposal by your team, all or nothing. And in fact, I went back and reviewed the presentation several times of the time we spent here on the 20th. PEA directed me to go back and examine the package proposal thoroughly, stating emphatically that it was your expectation. It was at the very end of the bargaining session, and the two of you looked across and that was offered to me as an expectation. And it's unfortunate for me tonight that as I look backwards and work from previous proposals that your team has presented, that was the suggestion by your team as to how we were going to negotiate tonight. And so that's where I start, is having to unpack how the package limited our discussions that evening. And so we're going to have to work from there this evening. If you go back and look at the recording of our time together last time, the PEA team stated on the recording, and it was specifically at 1 hour and about 1 minute, that a rejection of the package in its entirety would revert to the original proposal. Okay, we put that on the record. You put that on the record. Then PEA explained that they presented 2 proposals, stating that the district rejected the first and that the second proposal was a blueprint to address those concerns. I thought about that because the second one made a whole lot of sense to me. That was a proposal in its entirety as a package. But to say there was a first proposal, I was a little confused about the clarity of what in singularity that proposal was. I could only assume that was probably anticipated to discuss monies or salaries, but inside of those, there's multiple proposals for the various groups and for the other various items we've been talking about. So just say proposals, I was a little bit amiss. I find that the statement was vague, and I can only assume that we're directed to talk about what we talk about most here, and that's money. And so we're going to work to do that this evening. PEA offered at the end of that section that we had already rejected the first offer, and that our thorough review of the second package was an expectation. I think the next part is important. I sat on the other side of this table and I listened that evening as it was presented to me by PEA and the bargaining team that they are the only ones, you guys are the only ones speaking about the needs in the classroom. And we don't always talk about that on our side because when we come to the table, we're here to bargain, okay? We don't unpack the priorities that are being done behind the scenes. But I'm going to take a few minutes this evening to unpack some of those because I don't want the message to be lost in translation that you guys are the only ones carrying the torch relative to what's important and what's invaluable to the classrooms and to all those employees that I mentioned earlier that impact the bigger system that make the machine work. So I don't come to you and take your time to talk about all the work behind the scenes that is being done to recruit teachers, how we're working with multiple ways to certify them through any means allowed by Florida Department of Education or board policy, how we're working to create internships for guidance counselors with 3 to 4 lanes to get them into schools to help with the needs of our kids, or how we're creating alternate pathways for certification, where we're in fact paying paid internships for paraeducators to become teachers. And we have partnerships that we're securing with local post-secondary schools, Florida Southern, one to be mentioned, where we are working to get interns and offer conditional offers of employment right at the college. If you intern at these schools, you're going to stay here and have a job. I attended one of those events just several weeks ago, which I was there and participated and witnessed as we signed 7 conditional offers of employments for interns coming into our schools. And one of them already had an AA degree and came in directly through the ICT program. That is progress. That's lost in translation, but not tonight. We're working to ensure that secretaries are getting those uninterrupted lunches that we've talked about. We're working to talk about how the board has continued to prioritize insurance costs for employees at the district's cost without handing that on to the employee, or how the district is working to assist long-term subs in attaining certification to become teachers, or how HRS and certification staff, and I believe your staff as well, we come here to Jim Miles and we meet in the evenings to talk to existing teachers who are out of field or have certification deficiencies that are getting those notice that they can't teach in a classroom or they're out of field, and how can we assist you to get you back in field? We don't talk about that. We don't talk about how we're started programs for staff recognition, where PEA staff, for example, have been represented and focused on excellence programs, where we want to celebrate the work that you've done, the good work that you're being celebrated for. Often those are the items that I find that are left out of the narrative, and they're a positive message that gets lost. And I want it to be said that we do appreciate you, and we appreciate everything that's right with Polk County Public Schools. Sure, we've got a lot to work on. And I see people in the gallery checking their watches and the like. Okay, but I'm going to continue on. We have a lot of work to do and bargaining discussions to be had this evening. But I want to let the record stand at this evening that you're not the only ones speaking, or for that matter, working to address the needs of our classrooms or employees. The district is challenged. We're not PEA, we're the district, and we're challenged to consider everyone, okay? Everyone, all of the students and all of the employees. Tonight, we're going to bargain in good faith with PEA, as we always have when we come to the table with you, not as a package that limits the discussion but rather individual proposals for your review. And I'm hoping tonight for potential tentative agreement this evening. I want to be direct. If you could try this on and sit where I sat as a negotiator last time. Imagine the opposite. If I walk in tonight and I handed your team a package proposal and I said, here it is. It's all or nothing. Take it or leave it. And we'll have to get back to you. And if there's a single piece in there you don't like, then we're going to have to go back to the table and look at old language again. That could be where we start tonight, but I'm going to be emphatic and say that's not. We're going to bargain the individual elements that are left and remaining on the table, item by item, and we're going to try to seek resolution or an agreement on those. And if we can't, then we're going to agree to disagree. I went to the PEA website, and I quote from the PEA website. This package was proposed by PEA on November 20th, and the employer has yet to accept or reject, end quote. To be clear and begin our formal bargaining this evening, the district rejects the package presented by PEA in its entirety. And as such, we're going to present proposals individually for bargaining. We've sought to reschedule the meeting that we're here to be a part of this evening, so the district could review and consider every possibility of finding any additional funding for salaries, because we know that is an important priority for us. So what I'm going to do next is we're going to walk off into a discussion relative to finance and funding, and I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Pitts at this time.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Brian. And I just kind of also want to just recap with what I understand these steps to have been. On June 26th, PA brought us the initial proposal, which was a $49 million increase.
42.2. 42.2.
42.2. That, so it did not include the TSIA.
No, it did.
All right. I have $49 million in salary increases that were brought to us. That I do not think included the $6 million in TSIA funds. On August the 1st, we if you want to say we rejected that proposal, we did, and we countered with $20 million aside from the TSIA dollars, which would total then about $28 million for PA bargaining unit. Then August the 19th, PA rejected the employer proposal and wanted to wait to counter until after the annual financial report was submitted. Then our discussion seemed to center around fund balance projections and how accurate or inaccurate those projections are. And we spent the next 2 months going back and forth about how we budget, what that process looks like. On September 30th, PA revised its counter and reduced it to $35.7 million. November the 4th, the district rejected that union proposal and set us back to the November 20th PA counter, which was the
September 30th was 47.2. And then we countered on with the package on the 20th with the 35.7.
So I don't want folks to think that there's not been a lot of work that's not been being done over the last few months. As Mr. Warren stated, the district comes to every one of these negotiation meetings with the goal of getting this passed. We want to get funds in the wallet and to the paychecks of the employees as soon as possible, so we can then focus on the other priorities the district has. Earlier in the year, as Mr. Warren alluded to, we were able to give a 4% salary increase for all other employees, including bus drivers, bus attendants, custodians, school nutrition workers, facilities, maintenance staff, warehouse, other trades position. In addition, all other PCPS non-union staff, those in school administration and others that work at the district level, also received 4% raises across all salary grades. Over the course of many months, PAs continue to meet with district negotiators to if agreement could be reached. The district did not insist that the 4% raise be distributed across the board for PA. During negotiations, we explained that this was a 4% offer, was a total amount of funds available, and the union could determine how funds should be distributed among the employees within its bargaining unit. We extended the best possible monetary offer from the beginning. We don't look at this. I think there may be the opinion that this is like a car price negotiation. We don't start out with a kind of a pie in the sky, knowing that we're only going to be able to offer X amount of dollars. We come from the very beginning with the most amount of funds that we however, to assert that the district should dip deeper into its reserve funds and offer larger raises to PEA members. However, neither district leadership nor the elected members of the Polk County School Board have been willing to do that, since it would weaken our financial position by reducing money available for emergencies. Polk County School Board has a longstanding policy to maintain district fund balance at no lower than 5%. Government Finance Officers Association, GFOA, recommends that no less than a 60-day reserve fund balance for government entities. A 60-day reserve would represent a 16.5% fund balance. A 30-day reserve would require an 8.3 fund balance. The Polk County School Board's policy of 5% represents only an 18-day reserve for the general fund. The state of Florida requires school districts to maintain a minimum fund balance of 3%. This minimum was set to ensure that school districts have fund balances to address unforeseen circumstances or future emergencies. When a school district's fund balance falls below 3%, the district must report a financial emergency to the DOE. The district will then be ordered to follow a state-approved plan to increase the fund balance. Additionally, the district could risk having the state take over the district's finances completely if fund balance continues to drop. Our offer of a 4% raise for all employees in the PA bargaining unit takes into account the financial realities for PCPS. We must remain good stewards of our available resources and cannot jeopardize our ability to keep sensible fund balance for emergencies. We must also ensure that salary increases can remain sustainable in the future. Unfortunately, it appears that the district and the union remain at an impasse over this issue. It's important to also keep in mind that raises are only one part of our district's benefits and compensation for employees. For instance, we continue to invest in our health insurance plan that maintains a $0 premium for individual employees. The district continues to be one of the few employers in the region offering $0 health insurance premiums and free access to employee health and wellness clinics. Over the last 3 years alone, the district has invested $28 million to keep this important benefit available to PCPS employees. And I've got a chart here that is a breakdown of raises, retention bonuses, and benefit costs, which were included in part of the district's annual investment in employees represented by PA. And I just want to quickly get some 2019 and 20 salaries were frozen, but we invested $4 million into the health insurance plan. In 2021, $15.2 million were allocated for raise. We paid $4.7 million in ESSER retention bonuses. We put another $4 million into the health insurance plan for total additional compensation of $24 million. In 21-22, $7 million was allocated for raises. Another $10.2 million was paid out in longevity and retention bonuses out of ESSER funds. The district invested another $6.1 million in the health insurance fund for a total of $23 $5.3 million. In 22-23, $15.5 million was allocated for raises. Another $9.1 million was paid through ESSER funds for retention and longevity bonuses. Another $4.5 million was invested in the insurance plan for a total compensation package of $29.2 million. In 23-24, $16.4 million was allocated for raises. Another $9.1 million was paid out of ESSER funds for longevity and retention bonuses. Another $10.2 million was invested in the health plan for a total of $35.7 million. This year, going in to our tentative budget, we allocated $20.2 million for raises, which did represent 4% across all employee units. This year, we did not have to invest any additional funds into insurance. That changes monthly, and we look at that with our superintendent's insurance committee, and that may change, but currently we're doing fairly well in our health insurance fund. We have remained hopeful that the union would work collaboratively with us to a reasonable agreement. Unfortunately, the union repeated that the district accept an unrealistic package, including additional funding for PA raises. Again, the union's original proposal sought that appeared to primarily come from unavailable